Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick update on my experience with the Panasonic FZ1000. Priced at $899, this bridge-style camera is one of the most impressive that I've ever used, and that's because it builds upon what Sony established with the RX10, which arguably brought the segment back to life, offering enthusiasts, amateurs, videographers an option that really hadn't existed in the past. No one had taken a larger sensor, in this case a 1-inch sensor, the same one found in the RX10, and placed it with a great fixed lens in a well-made body. Well, Sony got it right and got a lot of praise. $1,300 starting price point, which now has come down to $1,000 and can be found for even less. But the Panasonic takes that standard and really, as I mentioned, just builds upon it, carries the torch, and it's got the same 1-inch sensor, but now we're working with a camera that's faster, has a longer lens in terms of focal range, 25 to 400. You can see it actually has a readout on the top like many mega zooms before it. And even though this isn't specified really as a mega zoom, it definitely is in terms of its capability. 12 frames per second continuous autofocus from that great 20 megapixel sensor that I mentioned before. You also now have 4K video capture at under $1,000. That is a huge benefit, something the RX10 clearly lacks. It does have some advantages, even though today is not a comparison. I will be referencing it because it is the only form of comparison appropriate, really, in the marketplace right now. And it's still not fair because the RX10 is a much older camera than the FZ1000. The only thing that I can say any consumer would immediately notice picking up this camera next to the RX10 is just the overall build quality and construction materials, or rather materials used in construction of the device itself. And that's not a knock on the Panasonic, it's just more of a polycarbonate build than the RX10. But you have a very fast piece of glass here. It is a Leica lens. You can control the zoom using the ring or switch that to control the focus. That's all a matter of what you prefer. The Leica glass is rated at f2.8 to 4 throughout the entire focal range. The RX10, of course, does have that f2.8 across its entire range. But keep in mind, the RX100 tops out at 200 millimeters. We can go all the way to 400 here, and then if you employ some zooming, some digital zoom, really this thing takes incredible stills even at 800 millimeters in my experience. For those of you that were impressed in the past by what you were able to pull out of 1080p video, get ready to be able to pull stills out of something with 4 times the quality. So you really legitimately can just leave this thing in video and not worry about anything unless stills are your priority. And that's what's great about this camera. It's flexible, it can do just about everything. The menu system is very clean, as you can see right there. And the only thing that I've noticed that bothers me a little bit is that when you're in the still mode, 4K mode is not, or the video mode, is not, that quality is not available. You have to actually be in the dedicated video mode right here on the top dial. So you just switch to that manual mode for video. And now you can see when I go into the actual format, quality 4K is an option. Keep in mind this records at a higher bit rate than the AX100 I'm filming this on right now, which is very impressive, and that's why many argue that between the processor and the actual bit rate that this is capturing 4K content at, this really is a backdoor to the GH4 in some ways. Of course, you do have a fixed piece of Leica glass that's relatively fast, but you don't have that same sensor size as the GH4. You don't have an interchangeable lens system either, but nonetheless, still a very capable one. The 4K video, 100 megabits per second. The AX100 that I'm filming this on now, which retails for $2,000, only captures at 60 megabits per second. So that's something to take into account. In terms of the autofocus performance, as I mentioned before, this does outperform the RX10. 12 frames per second continuous autofocus. That's something Panasonic excels at, both in the GH4 as well as in this camera, and that's something they really needed to, quite frankly. Wi-Fi and NFC are on board this device. You can see we've got a dial for controlling drive mode, as well as timer functions. Your custom mode dial here, essentially gives you C1 and C2 to program. Scene mode, there are basically is a wide array of different scenes. This is not a new standard for camera manufacturers. This is something everybody is doing these days. Your function buttons, really a lot of programmable capability here, something that takes Panasonic's traditional mega zooms to a whole nother level. So even though it may not be the GH4, it's about as close as you're going to come without jumping into that system. You can control the zoom with this rocker right here if you don't want to use the actual ring on body. You've also got, as I mentioned in previous videos, a great OLED viewfinder that has a sensor to detect whether or not you're actually using it, and it does exceptionally well out in bright sunlight. So really you have the best of both worlds between the articulating display and an OLED viewfinder. 921K dot display, by the way, on that articulating arm there. In terms of the button layout, I like everything, no complaints. Battery life, very solid. You can see the battery right there. And in my experience, I've yet to really press it to the point where, granted, it's been in mixed use, both video and still, so I can't give you an actual number yet. It's doing really, really well on the video side and on the still side. So I'll have more formal numbers sooner or later. But essentially, what I can tell you is that if you are able to get your hands on this camera, you are not going to be disappointed. In fact, my biggest disappointment I've already mentioned, which is that inability to instantly capture 4K when you're shooting traditional stills in one of the other modes. And that may be something I can program around. I haven't tried yet really that much, so I could be completely wrong about that setting limitation. Keep in mind, when you capture 4K video on here, it will be cropped. It doesn't start out at 25 mil like the still end of the lens. So it is not a direct readout the way Sony often likes to talk about the video being a direct readout, but video quality is stellar. Some will argue better than the AX100 I'm filming this on. In my opinion, it's pretty much a wash, but you do have a 400 millimeter lens here in terms of 35 mil equivalency, which is really impressive in this form factor. I mean, this is considerably smaller than the AX100 I'm filming this on, but you are limited to 29-minute clips. Keep that in mind. Now, if you want to step down from 4K, you are limited to AVC HD 28 megabits, which is disappointing because for such a powerhouse of a camera, I would have liked to have seen a better, or I should say more moderate step down in video quality from that 100 megabit 4K video that is best in class, especially at this price point. But that's really, nitpicking in my opinion, because you've got the 4K, so there's no reason to complain about not having XAVC-S when that's really Sony's, area of marketing expertise at the moment. In terms of inputs and outputs, you can see right here, we've got a remote port as well as HDMI out and the AV out digital cable port right there. On the other side of the camera, we have a microphone input jack right there, but nothing to monitor audio, which I know is something video enthusiasts will wish was there. Also, if you're going to be changing, your exposure actively on the fly, it's not going to be silent, but then again, if you're really shooting video with this, your audio should be separate from the camera. You shouldn't be relying on onboard audio. Those of you that are curious about whether or not this camera will record its own motor while zooming in and out, the answer is absolutely it will. I assure you, no question about it. It's going to record its motor. It's not like the RX-10. So really at the end of the day, what you need to know is that when comparing this to the RX-10, you're getting a lot more camera for your money, a little less build quality, no weather sealing, no silent video mode, the way the RX-10 is able to pull that off, where it basically cancels out its own motor for the most part. You are getting, though, 4K video, a much longer lens that isn't quite as fast, but arguably I would take the extra focal range any day. No question for me personally. This is a mega zoom, even though it's technically not necessarily classified as one, and that's because even though it stops at 400 millimeters, the lens, it is paired with a 1-inch sensor, which is considerably larger than what you would find in the mega zoom class. Something like the Sony the HX400V that I reviewed in the past, that is not going to yield similar results to this in many instances. And in some instances, this isn't going to be able to yield results that camera will, simply because it does have 1200 millimeters in range on the glass itself. And that's the beauty of this camera. If you were to step up to a full frame or interchangeable lens system and actually have 25 to 400 in range, it would never come in this sort of form factor. And since nothing can capture 4K at under $1,000 other than this camera, that's yet another thing no interchangeable lens camera at present can do. So there's really a lot to like about this camera. Great sensor under the hood, incredible fast piece of glass that really is a dream come true for enthusiasts like myself who've been waiting for a camera, a mega zoom with a legitimate sensor. And then great autofocus, both in still and video, and I can't emphasize how critical that 4K video capture really is. It sets this camera apart from everything else. At the end of the day, though, if you only require still and don't care about the 4K video capture and aren't interested in the extra focal range, the RX10 is the better camera. Of course, that's a very big if, and really comes down to what you're looking at getting as a consumer. But there's no question, again, from a value perspective, the RX10 does not touch this camera at all. You're looking at the best camera money literally can buy right now without going interchangeable, and some would argue even with going interchangeable, simply because 4K cannot be done right now in body on any interchangeable lens camera that is at least affordable and actually practical to use. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.